Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Lorenzo Marquez, and I am the Chief of Brand for ISFA. We are pleased to be here with you today and introduce our friends from Action Flow that have prepared a wonderful presentation. But before we get started, I just wanted to share a couple of things that are happening within ISFA that you may find beneficial for your business and for your employees as well. So go to the next one, please. There's a lot of things that have happened in the industry as of late. If you guys are paying attention to what's happening with tariffs, what's happening with safety, what's happening with silicosis, Kalosha, there's a lot of things that are happening. And ISFA is the only association that encompasses the entire ecosystem that evolves around countertop manufacturing and shop fabrication shops. So one of the approaches that we're taking these days, as far as ISFA goes, is we're inviting everybody to join the conversation and join at the table. We are creating what's called the regional countertops and surfaces summits across the United States. And instead of us having sponsors and vendors and trade show type tables, we're inviting thought leaders to come in from every company to share their perspective. In the case of companies like Action Flow, they work with a lot of different fabricators, so they have a lot of experience seeing what's happening in other businesses that could be very beneficial to a fabricator or a shop owner when they listen to their feedback. So we encourage you guys to take that part, be involved with ISFA, and to leverage what we're doing from a summit standpoint and the things that we're bringing to you guys into the market. Go to the next one, please. Having said that, just to remind you guys on a few benefits that ISFA has available as for all of its members, both shop owners as well as associate partners. We have over 1,800 training courses available on demand through our ISFA Academy. So as you are onboarding new employees, as you're trying to meet their training requirements, you can go into the Academy, set up a profile, assign training to your employees from sexual harassment to learning how to use Word, to learning how to operate a saw. There's all kinds of training that's available for you guys on demand, and it's something that's included within your ISFA membership. ISFA is highly focused right now on advocacy and industry standards. We created the American Countertop Manufacturers Council, which is the lobbying part of ISFA, and that council is essentially, putting in petitions and lobbying in DC so that we can make things better for our industry. We also have hired a director of safety and compliance so that we can be closer in touch with things that are evolving and things that are progressing in our industry related to employee safety. And every Wednesday, we're hosting a silica dust prevention and safety training class, which you guys can take advantage of and get a certification for all of your employees that essentially will say that they've been trained or related to silicosis exposure. Beginning July 1st, the state of California will demand that every single shop employee has a credential on them so that if there's an OSHA visit to their shop, they have to show the credential. If not, the business owner gets a huge fine. And so we are the only association that is providing this benefit to you guys. And so please make sure that you participate on those calls on Wednesday. Information is on our website. We also are bringing together best in class operational practices by our thought leaders. So in today's case, Reese is going to take us through the offering that he has and how it benefits businesses. And most importantly, we're bringing together a community. It's hard enough to be in business on your own. It's hard enough to deal with all the issues that you have to deal with. And as the owner of a shop or as an employee, you're sometimes left on an island on your own trying to figure things out. And so ISFA is trying to give you guys a platform and a playground so that you guys can exchange information, learn from your peers, and also contribute towards the cost of the industry. Last but not least, if you guys are not familiar, we have a magazine that's called Fabricator's Edge, and it's published on a quarterly basis. We love to feature our members. We love to feature our sponsors. And so if at any given point, anybody has a cool story they want to share, they worked on a project, they worked on a kind of a big installation, anything that they're doing that's revolutionary within your businesses, by all means, please send that information over to us. Next one, please. So just to tell you a little bit about what we're doing from our summit standpoint, the first day is hands-on fabrication training. So we're going to rotate fabrication training between solid surface, quartz, and porcelain. And that is specifically for shop fabricators. And everything is presented by the hosting shop. So as we go through, and I'll share the calendar with you. As we go through, you'll be able to see exactly what we're doing and where we're doing it. Day two is more hands-on information related to business owners and managers. This is when we update you on what's happening with OSHA, what's happening with tariffs, bringing in guest speakers that essentially are thought leaders that can give us expert advice or share their perspective on the industry. And this is a place where business owners come to learn. Next one, please. We've already concluded 2 of these summits. Our next one is in Salt Lake City in June. So be on the lookout for that, and find information on our website here pretty soon to sign up. If you're thinking about flying somebody in for training, please make sure you plan accordingly, and you'll find all the information available on our website. And last but not least, please make sure that you save the date. We're having our yearly ISFA conference in Fort Worth from November 3rd through the 6th. This is a requirement for all ISFA associate partners and members to attend to as part of our bylaws. Remember that ISFA is a nonprofit association that it's owned by its members. So as a member and as you pay your dues, it is your responsibility to also come in and help us shape the future and guide us in the right direction. And now I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce Reese from Action Flow. I had a privilege of working with Reese for several years now, and we both share the entrepreneurial spirit of starting our businesses in 2017. So I'm still in business with Marquette Group. He started in Action Flow in 2017. We are not keeping in touch every day, but we're kind of following each other's progress. And I have to say that Reese's leadership and the program that he's bringing forward to fabricators is revolutionary, and being in touch with what is happening at the shop level has also allowed him to grow in his offering. So from process development to inventory management to quality control, he's got a solution that could be beneficial for all fabricators. So Reese, thank you for being with us.
Great. Thank you, Lorenzo. I'm going to share my screen. I hope you're seeing that. So yeah, this is the ISFA inventory tracking best practices, how software, specifically how software can help streamline your inventory tracking. And yes, I'm Reese Watt, founder and CEO of Action Flow. Action Flow solves problems and increases profits. And that framework applies broadly, but I think it also applies pretty well to the question of inventory tracking. So not going to take a long time today, but the 3 main things I'm going to discuss. Number 1 is just it's difficult. You might think as a software developer, offering a product that I might come and say, hey, use Action Flow and it'll be easy. But that just isn't the case. I think we have a really good system that can help you, but it's a tricky problem, and it's something you're going to have to dedicate yourself to. And also, the reason I would emphasize that it's difficult is just it's easy to get discouraged, and lots of fabricators are struggling with it. And so, my point in making that and saying that is just to say, hey, don't be surprised if this is hard and it takes some effort. So, don't give up. So that I'm going to talk about the benefits, and then ultimately, I do want to affirm that success is achievable. And so I'm going to start out with an illustration. There's a movie out there, a suspenseful and exciting movie. Many of you are probably familiar with. It's called Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And in this movie, there's a certain point where King Arthur is traveling around his kingdom, and he's trying to move forward, and his path is blocked by a gentleman who claims he's the Black Knight, and he refuses to let Arthur pass. And Arthur doesn't want to fight or anything, but this guy's just being very stubborn. And so I'm going to actually use the illustration that the Black Knight is the fabricator and Arthur is inventory management. And those of you who have seen the movie know how this progresses. But the fight begins, and Arthur pretty quickly cuts off the arm of the Black Knight, and he's totally, pain free and undaunted. And he says, "'Tis but a scratch." And Arthur is sure that he's ready to give up, but he's not ready to give up, and they continue. And then he cuts off his other arm, and the Black Knight says, "It's just a flesh wound." And he says he wants to keep fighting, and Arthur's confused, but he's trying to kick him with his legs. Arthur continues until there's only, the guy only has one leg left. And then at that which point he remains convinced that he's invincible, trying to butt Arthur. And until finally Arthur cuts off his remaining leg. And finally, the Black Knight says, "Okay, all right, we'll call it a draw." And, I hesitate to compare a fabricator, our potential clients, to some quadruple amputee. But I'm having a little fun here, obviously, but I would say this might be a good illustration for most fabricators in the battle against inventory management. It's just very difficult. You can repeatedly try to get it under control. And to some degree, I think many, if not most out there, sort of call it a draw. That is, they're doing it good enough to get their jobs done. They're staying in business, but it is often a mess. It's a spreadsheet, and lots of people are spending lots of time trying to keep it under control. Fabricators often really have little idea what's actually in their shop, in their yard. I mean, if they really want to be sure, they have to go out there and actually look. They can't be sure exactly where the slabs are. There's often, several 3-year-old slabs in the corner that never sold. So again, they're making it work, but it's not nearly as efficient as it could be. So again, it's difficult. I spent 7 years working for a fabricator here in St. Louis and developing a system for them. And at a point we said, hey, we should include the inventory, and it's primarily slabs, but there might also be sinks or faucets you're tracking as well. But we said, yeah, we need to include this in our system and get this under control. And, okay, I thought, well, I'll work a few months and get a really good system for them. But it was probably 2 years later before we really, I would say, we had it under control. And it turns out that even like, a fairly large shop, maybe doing 10 jobs a day, maybe 3 slabs per job. So, there's 30 slabs coming in, 30 slabs coming out. It's not like there's a standard part, like, a carburetor, and they just need a whole bunch of those carburetors. Like every slab is a different color for the most part. And there's some that are custom picked, and they're ordering bundles. So there's just a constant flux of slabs, which is the underlying truth. And then, the employees that are using those slabs are the guys driving the fork truck or the saw guys, and they're reporting to the shop manager. And, his responsibility is to get jobs out. And, they could be good workers, but they're not necessarily most highly motivated to make sure all the slabs are tracked. And they might bring a slab onto the saw and they see a fissure there, and they have this urgency to get their job done, so they'll take that slab, put it on an A-frame in a corner, and then go grab another one and maybe not record all that. And suddenly you have one slab you thought you used, which is still around, and 3 days later you say, why is this slab still around? I thought we used it. And then you have one slab that just disappeared. And again, in my experience, you have these huge pieces of stone, and you would think it would be hard for something like that to disappear. but it happens, and it happens all the time. Like, where do these slabs go, or why is this slab still here? And then, not even mentioning remnants and trying to track remnants. And the spreadsheets are often used to to take care of this, but those can be cumbersome, and there's problems there, which I'll deal with. And then just the whole question of reconciling and going through the whole process, taking whatever kind of records you are keeping and going out into the yard and trying to match that up. So I do just want to really emphasize, and maybe this would be the primary point, is to say that it's a difficult task, and if you find it frustrating or you haven't been able to get it under control, I would say you're probably in the majority, and that take courage and keep working to get it under control. So, what are the benefits? Well, essentially, if you're a business, the one primary benefit is to make a profit. And there's essentially three components of profit: sales, labor, and material. Yeah, there's rent and a few other operational things, but these are by far the biggest components. So, you know, um, your profit obviously is what's left over from your sales after you pay your expenses. Um, and the two biggest expenses that you're going to have are your labor and your material. This is an interesting illustration where I just assumed $1 million in sales and 40% for labor and material and 10% for everything else, and you got $100,000 profit, so a 10% margin. And it's interesting. I mean, there's nothing fake going on here or anything. If your sales just went up by 5% and your labor and material went down by 5%, your profit actually goes up by 90%. Now, typically if your sales go up, your labor and material will go up. So I'm not saying it's trivial to achieve something like this, but it is interesting that, just some small improvements on these core elements can make a huge difference in the bottom line. So now, in regards to inventory management, how can inventory management improve these metrics? So what are the benefits of inventory tracking software? I'm going to get into this. And I think it can benefit sales, labor, and material. In regards to sales, just to know what's available when you're quoting, you may be able to charge lower prices. You may be able to display slabs online and generate reports for strategic decisions. So all of those, I think, could potentially help your sales. In regard to the labor, you're just paying your employees. Often you're paying them to spend lots of times doing quoting and trying to figure out how to quote for these slabs. Lots of time looking for slabs, lots of time managing spreadsheets and managing these systems. So there is a significant labor expense involved here. And just the material expense, I think there's two main ways, is the ordering. You want to order and make sure you have the slabs available when you need to cut them, but you don't want to order too much. And I think most fabricators are familiar with whether they ordered a bundle and it didn't sell, and so there's the slab sitting in the corner for 2 or 3 years. Ordering accurately is very important, and then just reduce the wasted material. Like, of the stuff you do use, ideally you'd rather use 2 slabs rather than 3, or 3 slabs rather than 4. So reducing the material you do use. So there are definitely benefits there, and I'm going to dive into these. So know what's available when quoting. This is a screenshot of our action flow quote module. And all I'm trying to illustrate here is how nice it is if, like, this is an Alaska white quote, granted Alaska white. And you may price some, in some colors you price by square footage of countertops, some by square foot of the slabs. But regardless, it's really nice if you could see what Alaska white do I have, and I'm going to attach these specific slabs to this quote, and you can track it and have them available. And just the ability at quoting to know what your slabs are and to attach those. And if you can do that, you can create quick quotes and get the sale on that quote. and then charge lower prices. I mean, if you are tracking these things well and you know your cost and know what price you need to earn a profit, then you might have the confidence to lower your prices a little to get those jobs, or know when you don't have that margin to lower them. But and again, if you're tracking these things well and you're ordering accurately and reducing waste, that can improve uh, your material, decrease your material expense, and may allow you to charge lower prices and get more sales. And still, the many fabricators out there will use like a stock program where they can purchase stock slab, maybe 10 colors, and they purchase those in bulk. So maybe save a little bit on the ordering by ordering more quantity. But also the nice thing about a stock program, if you've got 10 slabs of the same lot, then you can use, the remnants well, and use 2.5 slabs for one job and use that half a remnant for the next job as well, because it's all part of the same lot. So, something like a well-managed stock program could allow you to charge lower prices as well, which may increase your sales. Displaying slabs online, we at ActionFlow don't have that feature, but we can integrate with other companies that do. I've got a screenshot here from Slab Cloud, who does a good job of putting slabs online. So again, that's another opportunity where you can get those slabs out there and maybe make a sale that you couldn't otherwise do. And then just generating reports. This is a glimpse of our Power BI feature within ActionFlow. On our inventory tab, there's lots of different reports you can make. But if you do have your inventory, if you know like which colors are selling well, or maybe which of your builders or which of your accounts are selling a particular color, if you have a system where you're tracking all this, then you can, get some very good insights from these reports and what's going on. And again, those strategic decisions may very well help you pick colors and sell jobs better than you would otherwise. So there's several ways in which a good inventory management system could help you with sales. In terms of labor expense, again, this is that same screenshot from earlier. Just the time it takes to quote. I mean, if someone wants Alaska white, does your estimator, they're unsure about the system, so they have to walk out, take 30 minutes walking through the slab yard, making sure the Alaska white's there, and if it is there, is it tagged to another job? So there's just a ton of time, even at the quoting level, where you might be wasting time, your people might be wasting time just because the inventory is not well organized. Reduce time looking for slabs. The guy in the fork truck needs to go get the slabs and stage them for the saw. And the most recent system says he's got Alaska white in slot A1. He goes to A1 and it's not there, so he's driving around the yard looking for the slabs. They got moved because all kinds of reasons, and so this is an inventory snapshot and just a report that seems simple enough. It should show you your slabs in each color. What are the dimensions? Where in the yard are they? If it's a remnant, like what's the L size on the remnant section? So, do you have a report that you're confident in, that if it says there's Alaska white in A1, you're confident that you'll go out there and you'll see that. So there are just tons of situations where you're looking for slabs, and it's really an advantage if you can have an accurate record of that. Managing spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are a really cool tool. Been around for 30 or 40 years, and you learn to use them, and they're very easy to create a spreadsheet. You don't need database training to name columns, or you don't need to create a form for entry. You just put your column headers on there and you start entering information. So it's easy to create, very flexible. If you want to add another column, just column insert and put the column in there. You want to change fields, you can change whatever you want. So for those reasons, it's very easy to get started and to do a lot of things with them. And so many fabricators do that and they just stick with the spreadsheet. But there are a lot of cons, a lot of disadvantages to spreadsheets as well. Just deleting and adding, yeah, you can delete a whole row, but normally you don't want to do that, but you might want to move it down or might want to change the status and move all your deleted ones out. And it actually can be cumbersome to add and delete and maintain a spreadsheet. And it can be difficult to search and not easily reportable. Yeah, you can search for a certain column and do sorts and all, but it's still not, a spreadsheet is optimized primarily for calculation and doing things like that, and not so much for storing data and searching and reporting. So it's not great with that. It's not integrated, you're with the rest of your data. So if you've got a spreadsheet for your slabs, you can easily tie that right into the job data for Mrs. Smith, or the when is this going to be cut, or when is it going to be templated or installed. So you obviously can re-enter that into the spreadsheet, but then there's duplicate data entry, and if that original data changes, you got to go update it separately. So it's not integrated with the rest of your data. It's not globally accessible by all employees. I mean, generally it's a single file, right? It's a spreadsheet on your computer. Now you can put it on a shared drive and give access to employees, but still, having them available from home or, from the job site, that's probably not going to be possible. Not that maybe you would need to access your inventory from a job site, but just from home or, from a computer in the warehouse. It's not accessible. But if you do give access, if you let people get in there, then it can be prone to error, and there are no safeguards on how you're spelling a certain color. So you may have the Alaska white with an extra A or an extra K. It could be spelled three different ways. So it's prone to error. So yeah, there's some things that are nice about spreadsheet, but it's not the ideal tool for managing your inventory. And ultimately can take a lot of time to keep those updated. In terms of saving on material expense, obviously ordering only what you need is a very important thing. You want the slabs to be there when you need it, but you don't want to order extra slabs that are just sitting in the corner. This is a screenshot from a report we call usable inventory items by job. There's three sections. If you look in there, three headers. One says, for this particular job, how many slabs do I need? So this says we need 2 slabs of Alaska white. And then the next section, well, how many slabs are in inventory? Well, it looks like, maybe there's 10, and it says where they're located and the dimensions. And so that's fairly easy and good. You think, well, I got 2 slabs and I've got 10 in inventory. I probably don't need to order any. But the other factor is there may be other Alaska white slabs that are progressing at the same time. So the third section actually looks out there and looks for other jobs and when they're going to be installed and with the template date. And so you can see what other slabs are going to be needed. Like, for example, let's just say, you have 4 slabs of a certain color and you have 3 jobs for that color. And, the first job you say, well, I need 3 slabs and there's 4 slabs out there. I should be fine. And then the following day, there's another job with that color and you look and say, well, I need 3 slabs and there's 4 slabs out there. I should be fine. Third job, same thing. Oh, I need 3 slabs. There's 4 slabs out there. I should be fine. But of course, when you actually get it, if there's 3 slabs and 3 jobs, 3 slabs each, you really need 9 slabs and you only had 4. But you wouldn't necessarily know that just by looking at your inventory. So, in a perfect world, you'll know not only what do you need for this job and what's out there, but it'd also be really nice to know what other jobs are coming so that you can order and the slabs will be available when you need to cut. And in the same way, if you have plenty of slabs, you don't want to order another slab that you don't need that's just going to sit there. So one very valuable way that an inventory system can help is just making sure you're ordering accurately and efficiently. And then, of course, just using the slabs well. I mean, this is a picture of action flow, and you can see the slabs in the background and the pieces arranged. And, this is primarily a quoting tool. There are other um, uh, like Slabsmith and Horus and some of these where you're doing the actual layouts that are going to go to the saw. Well, that's obviously very important, but even, right at the time you're quoting, you need to know, do you need 2 slabs or 3 slabs? And there's a nice tool for that, again, to know what you need and then try to maximize that. Can we arrange these pieces in a way so that we could get it with 2 slabs rather than 3? So can we reduce that? And then, the other tools that have been around for 30 or 40 years is there's nesting tools, there's different programs. And, nesting, any kind of industry where you have a flat piece of material and you're cutting pieces out of it, sheet metal or any of that, there's lots of industries that likes to maximize the use of a 2-dimensional material. And so there are nesting programs out there. And that, if you have a commercial job with 20 units and you're going to use 60 slabs, you can put all these pieces, on those slabs and try to really snuggle them close together. And maybe rather than using 60 slabs for those 20 jobs, you could get by with 55. And we're looking into including a nesting capability for multiple jobs, but we don't have it right now. But, there are other products out there that can do that. So, again, if you know your slabs and you got a good system, you can reduce what's needed. So, success is achievable. You really have to understand that it's difficult. You have to take a deep breath and decide to address the problem. Find a good management system and an implementer that has experience with these things, and just commit to getting it implemented and maintaining the diligence and doing the task to reconcile, because it can create really good benefits. This is a quote from one of our uh, own clients. I can scan all 1,500 slabs on our property and resolve issues in 3 to 3.5 hours. And I know that it's 100% accurate. It's really amazing. I'm so in love with this process for that reason. Action Flow really has been a game changer for all inventory related things. I can't imagine going back to using a spreadsheet to manage that much inventory. It was never accurate and took days to fully reconcile, if ever. So, 2 things that, there is light at the end of the tunnel. They did get the benefits, but I also just want to point out, like, even when it's working well, taking the time to go through 1,500 slabs or, 500 or 3,000 and, beeping on each one of those barcodes and then bringing that back and reconciling, it's still not trivial. And, 3 to 3.5 hours is not a trivial amount of time. And, they might have to do this once a week or so, just to make sure it's accurate. So again, this joint message I want to give out that it's difficult, it requires a commitment, but it is achievable and it can be done, and you can get to the point where you're getting these benefits. Specifically, these ones we've talked about. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. It can help you with sales, it can help reduce your labor expense and your material expense. So it can help in all these ways to have a good inventory system. And so you can win the battle against inventory management. You don't have to be a quadruple amputee, but I think you can win this battle. And we're obviously we sell software to countertop fabricators, and we're glad to talk about it. So you go to actionflow.net or scan that QR code, and we'd love to talk more about it. And I think right now, I think I'll just open it for questions and see if you have anything to say. Let me see. I'm going to stop sharing. So thank you. Thank you for coming. I'm going to turn my camera off and back on. occasionally it gets out of focus. Um,
So, Reese, for those that may be on the call or may not be on the call and may be watching this later, what is the best way to get started with Action Flow? Do you guys sit down fabricator by fabricator and identify their needs and provide them with a solution, or is it just an all-inclusive package?
yeah, thank you. There's on our website, actionflow.net, we have 3 tiers. We have something called Spring, which is our first tier. It can start as low as I think $150 a month. And it's just basic quoting and some really nice set of tools, even at a low entry point. But then the second tier is something we got called Process, where we come in and we can automate the processes, and embedded in the name of Action Flow is we want a smooth process from start to finish. So there's the process, and then the highest tier we're currently calling Performance, and that's a deep integrated program that includes the quoting, scheduling, inventory, advanced metrics, and so we work with clients as many as maybe 2 users up to some of our largest clients have over 100 users and are very large. So yeah, we pride ourselves in offering great customer service. All of our clients, well, Spring is more of a value product, and we support that via email. But then on our upper levels, we have a dedicated account manager who gets to know you. We spend a lot of time helping you get up and running. So yeah, we have a way to ramp up to really provide almost as much as you want. And now, having said that, there are functions like uh, laser products, the laser devices. We don't offer that, so we integrate with many other partners in the industry that are offering specialized solutions that aren't part of ours. So yeah, we have a really nice core, and we integrate with lots of partners.
Got it.
Thank you.
Or do we have any other questions in the room, Michaela?
No, we don't.
All
So,
right.
so I have a question. Obviously, we were having a conversation prior to the webinar starting, and how all of us are busy with our day to day, especially when you're running a shop. You're in between machinery, customer issues, remakes, HR, operations, cash flow. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff that happens, right, when you're running a business. What are some of the things that you would recommend to a fabricator to sort of think about? Let's say they were able to step back for 5 minutes. What are some of the 5 critical things that you would say you need to look for this, and that to understand that you need a product like ours, right? So is it when
Right.
a report was produced? Is it the way you pay your operations manager is related to productivity? Like, what do you recommend that they look as
Well, there are sort of, I guess, 2 approaches. One of them is, and we've been focusing on this more recently, is kind of as I started, like, what's your profitability? And kind of break that turn down in terms of sales and labor expense and material expense. And then, how could you improve your sales? How could you improve decrease your labor and material? So, there's one approach where you take that and you look at those metrics, and we have some ways to look at that. Um, and getting, I mentioned advanced metrics. Synchronous Solutions and other consultants in the industry have presented ideas like T dollars, where you are measuring the T dollars, and a lot of what that has to do is having a measurement as you're going through the month to know how you're doing. So you're not going through your month, and then 2 weeks after the end of the month, you look at your books and you say, well, I made money or I didn't. Ideally, you want real-time measurements as you're going through the month to know how you're doing. And so T dollars is one of one of those that can kind of help you get real-time measurements and adjust your behavior accordingly. And another thing that we have are hourly definitions or hourly projections where you do the quote and we can automatically tell you how long you should expect to take to saw that, to do the edges, then to do the install. So projecting the hours that's going to take. So there's all those metrics and strategies. Another way to divide it up though, and you talk about five things. There's the quoting is a big area. There's the scheduling, getting your templates and shop and your install scheduled. There's, like QuickBooks integrating with your accounting functions. There's inventory, another function there. So you can look at it functionally. And payments is another big thing where, how much time are you spending actually going out chasing people down for their payments? Can you just send them a link and collect things easily? So there, those areas of functionality. And I mentioned our three tiers. And, one thing you can do with action flow is, you don't have to jump to the water with both feet. Like if with say our spring product, for example, if you just want to get a product that's helping you do the quoting, we could help you do that, and you could do everything else the same way you're doing it, and we'll help you quote and kind of get that. And action flow, it's a single system that you can grow and expand. So we can iteratively deal with these things. Like then maybe you'll add scheduling, and then you get that up and running, and maybe you want to start integrating and exporting stuff to QuickBooks. So we have a wide range of products, but we do allow you to ramp up and get into those iteratively.
So I have another question, and this is one that you may or may not want to answer. But there's an overwhelming amount of buzz happening with AI and the things that AI can do for you, and how new companies are coming into our industry specifically promoting AI features and benefits and whatnot. Obviously, your product is more of a software, but it's not necessarily AI. So, can you just kind of talk about the benefit of working with a software versus working with something that is AI driven?
Yeah, and actually, thanks for that question. That's a great question, and you're right. There's a huge buzz in the industry right now. AI is not different from software. AI is requires software. Like even you go on the internet and you go to Claude or Chat GPT and you put the question in there. Obviously there somewhere at Microsoft or somewhere there are computers that are running on an actual hardware device, and data that it's drawing is getting stored on hard disk somewhere. It's not, it doesn't just exist in a vacuum out there. So yeah, we are um, spending a lot of work investigating how AI can be integrated into action flow. Like we were, thinking about which of these we should lead with, and we're probably going to make an announcement pretty soon about some tools we're going to be doing, bringing forward. Like one of them, I had a screen there of our Power BI screen, and I think we want to integrate that where we're going to have a set of graphs, and we'll have a panel where you can ask English language questions. We also want to make it very easy for you to access our support website. And there are ways that AI, one of the problems, like when you're Googling a certain question, it could be about your car, about a tree or whatever, and you don't even know the vocabulary to ask the question. So it can be a little frustrating. And that's one thing that AI is great with. Like, even if you don't use the exact right words to ask your question, it can understand that and find the data. So,
I mean, I agree with you on that. Not entirely, but I do agree with you on that. And I agree with you in the sense that obviously AI, you almost need to nurture your queries and you have to like guide your agents, but a lot of people don't
right.
necessarily know how to do that, right? So some people may not even if you look at search engine optimization, if I look for countertops in Houston, somebody else may be looking for countertops in Harris County, right? So the way people search is very different. The way people use AI is also very different. And the way I look at your product versus an AI product, when you're working with an AI product, you have to train your agent based on what you know. So you have to spend time training that agent to get the output that you're looking for. Whereas your product is a system that's already been proven to be successful for many companies. So they're not having to reinvent and having to train the system to spit out the information they're looking for. You already have a proven system. So that's kind of where I see it. It's like I almost see it like what's the difference between reading a paperback and reading on your phone, right? It's the same content, but it's a very different user experience, and it's based on a lot of different scenarios that are related to the individual user, right? So in the case of your product, it fits the model because it's been proven and it's user friendly, and they don't have to train anything. It's just click and go.
Right. Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, it is true. There is, and there are a lot of promises being made and hype right now with AI. And, we are like, I am, and we as a company are walking this balance of, yeah, there is real value. We want to try to harness that, but it's not magic. And yeah, you need these, you still need a place to store data. You need a system that organizes it. You need to create quotes and yeah, it's the queries. Yeah, there's the training involved, like you mentioned. You got to train these queries, and somebody has to connect the question to the answer. So we are there. There is value. It is a real new. It is a true technology that has value, and we want to harness it. And we're going to make that easier. But yeah, the expertise that we have, the infrastructure isn't going to go away. And the expertise of our account managers who have been in the industry for years and who know your situation, that expertise is going to remain valuable. So yeah, um, it's a question of taking the good and yet also, maybe tampering down a little bit of the hype and exposing a little bit of the unrealistic promises that you might be hearing about.
Got it. Well, I'm not sure if anybody else has any other questions in the room. Well, I want to thank you guys for being here, Reese and the Actual Flow team. Thank you for taking the time to put this presentation together. This will be available through ISFA Academy in the next couple of weeks once it's cut, edited, and we all look, better on camera. But we appreciate your support. We appreciate you being a part of ISFA, and we look forward to continuing working with you guys.
All right. Thank you, Lorenzo.
Thank you.
Thanks to all of us. All right. Take care.